Well, he's the defending 360 Sprint Car champion at Cottage Grove Speedway, and he's coming off of some pretty good results with Speed Week Northwest North. We're talking about Kinzer Cox, originally out of Cottage Grove, but why'd he move to Cresswell? We're going to find out after these messages with Getting Up to Speed. Dave's Home Supply specializes in cabinets, flooring, and countertops. Visit their website at daveshomesupply.com to look at products, services, financing, and even a free estimate. Are you looking for bookkeeping, payroll, or income tax services? Then check out the folks at For You Simple Bookkeeping. They are a licensed tax preparer throughout the entire United States. For more information, click on the link in the description. This broadcast is brought to you by Meat Freaks Jerky Club. Get the best jerky the world has to offer straight to your door by visiting meatfreaksjerkyclub.com. Pick your box and plan, tell them where to ship, and receive and enjoy. Log on to meatfreaksjerky.com and use promo code SPEED. Me on Getting Up to Speed. It's Kinzer Cox. Kinzer, great to have you part of the show. Now calling Cresswell home these days, originally from Cottage Grove, but still in South Wayne County in Oregon. It's great to have you here, and yeah, we're going to talk about some racing.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm excited to talk.
Well, I guess we'll get the elephant out of the room with the hot shot, but moving to Cresswell recently, and if anybody doesn't know, that's kind of like a crosstown rivalry if you're from Cottage Grove.
Yeah, turning into a bulldog. I'll be a lion. I'll be a lion chewing chew forever. But moving here, kind of like the small town. You know, it's real homey and everybody's welcoming. So having a good time there.
Yeah, I had to get out of the big city of 10,000 people at Cottage Grove.
It's just kind of turning into something that I wasn't really wanting to grow up, like, you know, raise a family in, and so I just decided to move not too far down the road.
Sure. Well, let's talk about you with 2023. You guys have been pretty solid this year in 15 starts overall, 12 top 10s, 9 top 5s, 3 podiums, and a win at the Douglas County Dirt Track on July 1st.
Yeah, we had a real good night going there in Roseburg, and were able to pull off the win. Started struggling a little bit beginning of the season. Didn't really pick up quite where we had left off, but felt like after Roseburg we were starting to get things figured out.
And your guys' schedule wasn't week after week racing. It was kind of chopped up a little bit, right?
Yeah, just kind of, you know, like I said, moving to Cresswell here and buying the new house, just picking and choosing what races we were wanting to hit, and when everybody had the time to go, the crew guys as well, you know. It takes a small army to get my car to the racetrack. It's definitely a group effort, and if everybody's not willing to go, then we kind of just stay home and do other things.
And you had a handful of starts in Wingless competition this year, produced 2 top 5s out of it, if I looked at that correctly.
Yeah, we were able to get together with Carl Hofstas, and he's letting me drive the Wingless car for him right now. We've had 2 races, I believe, and we got a couple more coming up. We're going to run the Wingless Nationals in Roseburg. I'm just excited to see where that kind of goes. I'd like to get a couple of wins on the board, but as far as the racing team and everything being new, I'm excited in the direction it's going, and we're kind of getting to the point where we're working together real well, and things should definitely start to pick up some speed, you know, pick up a couple wins, and I'm hoping everybody will be super happy once that starts going down.
Well, let's talk about your story. You're from a racing family, multi-generational, correct me if I'm wrong, 4th generation driver.
Yep, 4th generation driver from the Cooper side. A little bit of a last name change, but, you know, family still family. And so I think that I'm probably the only one to step foot into a sprint car, but there's definitely been a long history of the Cooper clan from way back in the early days at Cottage Grove Speedway. And last year when I finally picked up first championship, definitely kind of put my name on the board, and it felt pretty good just as a fourth generation driver to be able to finally accomplish something like that.
No doubt, no doubt. And your family, Ron Cooper, a former sportsman champion back in the early to mid 90s, and Gus Cooper, a two-time modified track champion. And I was telling this to somebody the other day. Modifieds was kind of your first big car that you'd race cage karts as a little kid, but then when you got to the big cars, you went the modified direction.
Yeah, we jumped into the modifieds just because it was kind of something that my dad knew. My dad ran the modifieds, and we picked up a handful of wins there at Cottage Grove, and we had a couple of good finishes with a couple of different racetracks, but just really wasn't my cup of tea as far as longevity. The weekly maintenance on one of those modifieds is a little outrageous when you got to beat body panels out, and it's just sprint car racing as far as the weekly I feel is easier. But I would definitely jump back in one if I had the opportunity. A race car driver's a race car driver, and we'll do anything. We'll race anything if it's got a steering wheel,
Well, and your dad familiar with modifieds, but you had been familiar in your youth with working on sprint cars, correct?
Yeah, when I was a young pup, I lived next door. Well, I guess one street over from Brendan Boyce, and so as a really young kid, I got to go tinker around on sprint cars and go out in the pits and scrape mud and everything. Back then it was a big deal for me, but looking back at it now, I really didn't have much of an important job. But like I said, it takes an army to get the cars out there and keep them looking nice and going around the racetrack. So I was excited to be a part of that, and definitely looked up to, Brendan and Dale and Marvin and just all the guys that were from that Cottage Grove area that really put a mark on Cottage Grove history of sprint car drivers.
What was the most difficult thing to transition to from the modified to the sprint cars, or a couple things?
So I ran both cars there for, I don't know, half dozen or a dozen races. And the biggest thing that I ran into is just the wing, man. The wing glues you down to the racetrack so much more, and driving a modified, you feel like you're floating it through the corner, where in a sprint car, you're actually driving it through the corner. And it just kind of took me a little bit to get used to that, especially when I was jumping back and forth. And then, of course, the speed change. The sprint car's so much faster that when I jumped back into the modified, I almost felt like I was over driving the car because things were happening so much slower.
Well, and Kinzer, also something to note recently, kind of taking the role as I don't know how you would probably be able to define it a little bit better than me, but sort of as a mentor and giving a younger racer a shot in Ryan Hirschbach to his introduction to sprint cars.
Yeah, I spent a little bit of time down at Roseburg and was watching the kart racing, and I guess it's been a year ago this all started. I really wasn't enjoying myself with the limited sprint racing. It kind of felt like things had died off, and I really wanted to focus on the 360s. Well, I had everything sitting here, and so being down at the Roseburg watching the indoor season of go-kart racing, I noticed Ryan Hirschbach. He was very smooth, and I figured, what the heck? I'll give a kid a chance that I never had, So I believe we let him race my car for 3 nights at Cottage Grove. And then his dad was kind of hooked with it, and we we put him a car together of his own, and he's been racing. of his own, and he's been racing the Ironhead series and then the local shows at Medford and some at Cottage Grove. I think he just picked up his first win at the Freedom Cup, and I was super excited to see that for him. But yeah, he's quite the little wheelman, and I'm excited to see what his future holds for him.
Now, as far as your future, what is that looking like, either short term or long term? I guess we could say, let's just, for first question, 2023. What's the rest of that looking like, at least right now?
The rest of 2023 is going to be a few wingless races in the 5-car for Carl. We're going to potentially try to run our car in the next Speed Week. And then I believe we got one more show in Roseburg. And then besides that, I think I'm just going to enjoy the rest of my summer. 2024, things might start off at the Chili Bowl. We're not 100% sure, but there's definitely been a little talk about it.
Okay. And any plans of possibly a 410 being acquired and having you guys run that, or is that off the table right now?
As far as myself acquiring one, it's kind of just off the table for me. It's too far-fetched, especially with the amount that you got to travel away from locally to be able to race often. But then again, there has been some talk about maybe getting the opportunity to jump in one for a night or two. So just kind of playing things out and waiting to see what cards fall in my favor.
Okay. And you mentioned Speed Week. As we record this, it's the off day for Speed Week Northwest North. You had a pair of good runs, a couple of 5th place finishes. I mean, that had to feel so great for you and your guys' racing program.
Yeah, it felt really good. Both nights that we finished 5th, I actually felt like I struggled most. And then the nights that I felt we were actually doing well, we finished farther back. So it was kind of a little bit of a catch-20 for us. But we pushed through and we picked up a couple of 5th place finishes. I definitely think we could have been a top 3 car a couple of nights, but you know, our first time running a 360 at Elma, actually. So we were definitely excited with how things turned out, being our first time.
And off the racetrack, your lifestyle, you do a lot of different things. When you're not working on the race car in the shop or traveling to a race or racing, what are some of your favorite things you like to partake in?
I definitely am an avid outdoorsman. I like hunting and fishing. Definitely during the wintertime and off season, and also like to go, you know, anything with speed. We like to go to the dunes and ride around. But for the most part, it's just outdoors and the race cars.
Well, awesome. Awesome. And you've got a group of great guys that have been helping you on your race car too.
Yeah, I can't thank my guys enough. They're definitely a saving grace for me. You know, I've been working out of town a lot this year, and they're actually the ones that are putting the time in at the shop and getting the maintenance done on the car. And Jason Gately, he's been around race cars his whole entire life. You know, he's definitely just likes to do anything that has to do with race cars. It doesn't even have to pertain to sprint cars. He doesn't even have a background in sprint cars. He just loves helping out. And then Nathan, you know, I picked him up a couple of years ago, and he kind of got hooked, and the three of us have just worked really well together the last couple of years here. And last year and then this year, I really feel like we're kind of putting our foot in the door of a car that can win around here on the coast. And we definitely want to reach out and widen our horizon of racetracks and experiences, because we know that that's just going to make us even better for the future.
Well, and when it comes to races or even tracks, what are some bucket list tracks you like to go race at, and perhaps some bucket list races you like to go race at and potentially win at?
I don't know that I really have any bucket list races, but I definitely want to venture into California a little bit. I'd like to run Tulare, Placerville, those two tracks, just because so much history, especially with Brian Crockett being a multi-track champion there and him living just, 2 minutes away from my house, and all the help that he gives to me and my crew. I'd love to go down there and just race it once to say that I had been there. And then, of course, everybody's dream is probably the Chili Bowl. I mean, like Kyle Larson said, it's the Daytona 500 of dirt racing. And I'd really love to get to try that. And it's looking like maybe next year we could possibly have the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, that's super, super cool. And I know you're a busy guy, so we greatly appreciate you coming on and partaking in this interview. But before we let you go for the night, is there any sponsors or any other folks you want to thank before I let you go?
Yeah, I got to thank FM Sheet Metal. I got to thank South Valley Plumbing, Bates Construction, Full Circle Tree Service, Coburg Distillery, SDMF, just all the people that put time and effort into this race car. It's definitely could not do it myself by any means. My family and my crew for sure.
Well, awesome. Well, Kinzer, it's been great to have you, as I said, and we wish you the best of luck for 2023 and beyond.
Thank you.
Well, we hope you enjoyed the interview, race fans. Again, be sure and hit like, subscribe, and get the latest and greatest news, whether it's getting up to speed, inside NARC, or Sprint Car News today. If you subscribe on the YouTube channel, it'll get you those notifications as soon as all the new episodes come out. In the meantime, everybody have a great rest of your day, night, whatever time you're listening, and we'll be back next time with more stuff from Highside Racing Promotions.